Well, we can promise you one thing. None of us are going to stand here and get booed by our entire fan base like our name is Roger Goodell. Welcome to this episode of Wrestling with Egos. While we are recording this, the Friday extravaganza of night 2 of the NFL draft is going on, and a certain cat in a red shirt and a certain guy in a black shirt might be just a wee tad distracted because of their teams. Meanwhile, I prefer college because it's a lot more fun, and these two damn Yankees don't know anything about that. Moving on. Don't give me.
I don't feel like even making the step about
Don't give me that. Ohio State and Michigan is played at noon. That way you have the undercard for the main event that is the Auburn-Alabama game, which is always played.
The game for a reason. The game.
End
of story.
Anyway,
not Iron Bowl, not nothing else. The game. End of story.
Can we continue?
Sure, we can continue. All I know is that the Ohio State University keeps cranking out wide receivers like they're going out of style. That's all I know. Welcome to the Saints, Chris Olave, by the way.
Anyway, that derailed. I can already tell this is going to be a fun show. And you know what? It makes it very appropriate because I have a feeling toward the end of this show, somebody is going to be yelling at someone else for a comment they make. This might be one of the more controversial and argumentative shows that we've ever done.
What?
Yeah.
What?
You guys might be listening or watching this episode of Wrestling with Egos, whether it be on the YouTubes, on Anchor Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Apple. Thank you guys for making this episode and every other one before this your part of your wrestling entertainment for the week. We got a very fun topic. First off, I want to thank you guys for the feedback that we have gotten in the very short time that last week's episode, the Chamber of WTF, has been up, which has only been for a couple of hours because I kind of got tired of the work stuff. That was a fun episode. Thank you guys so much for the feedback. We look forward to hearing more of it. Feel free to tweet the show, Wrestling X Egos. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, leave a 5-star review, all that good jazz. Tonight, we're going to have a GOAT discussion. We love having these discussions because we get really in depth. And there's G.O.A.T, the mascot himself, the man, the myth, the legend, the four-legged cloven-hoofed animal. Anyway, this week we're not going to be talking about a single entity as far as a GOAT. I've asked my two cohorts on this show to give me their opinions on who the GOAT is. This is going to get dicey. I promise you that. But before we get into that, some current events, some housekeeping needs to be taken care of. And by housekeeping, I mean, yes, yet again, WWE has released people. And some of these ideas of releases are stupid. We're going to talk about a couple of them. Some of the names of note that were released in no particular order. Dexter Lumis, Persia Parada, a bunch of other people I've never heard of. Harland, formerly known as Parker Boudreaux, or Bordeaux, or whatever the hell his last name is. Malcolm Bivens, and Dakota Kai. One of us is very upset about Bivens being released. Moi. One of us is very upset about Dakota Kai being released. There you go. Let's talk. And one of us is very happy about Harlan being released because this gives that person the opportunity to make fun of him.
And it's not me.
Say what?
And it's not me.
It is me, though. Let's go ahead and start with that one. The whole point of this guy getting signed by WWE, he was a offensive lineman that played at Central Florida And he got signed because he's a big dude, heavily tatted up, and he looks like Brock Lesnar. It was pretty much, that was his selling point. What's the first thing they do with him when they put him in NXT 2.0? Shave his head and make him look like, a very phallic shape. We're just going to go with it like that. I've said a whole lot worse in the pre-show meeting. You shave his head, you put him with Joe Gacy, the camp counselor from hell. I honestly didn't feel like that's what the Joe Gacy character is. The whole inclusion thing. He just seems like a creepy camp counselor. Moving right along. Dude, for me, Parker being released is karma. Because, hey, I look like Lesnar. You guys want to sign me? And he starts tagging everybody in Twitter and everybody on Twitter associated with WWE and starts referring to himself as the destroyer of gods before he's even wrestled a match. Yeah.
Believing in yourself.
Say what?
It's called believing in yourself.
There's believing in yourselves, and then there's being delusional. And I don't mean like the Bo Dallas kind of delusional, because that kind of delusion was amazing. This borders on the level of insanity. So, good luck in your future endeavors. Go back to Central Florida where they claimed a national title by beating nobody. And by nobody, I mean they beat Auburn in the Sugar Bowl when Auburn gave the shit up. Yeah, that team was just like, no, we already choked away a shot at playing for the national title. We don't care. The other two that we really do want to mention, Malcolm Bivens and Dakota Kai. Malcolm Bivens, not an in-ring performer, a manager, managing Diamond Mine, and a outstanding mouthpiece. Probably one of the best managerial mouthpieces in a long time. I was really hoping that he would find a way to make it to the main roster, and I would have a Malcolm Bivens versus Paul Heyman moment. And alas, that's not going to happen. And then we have Dakota Kai. Dakota Kai was someone that a lot of NXT fans felt deserved more, should have been given more opportunity. But for whatever reason, she was not. That's the one we're really going to talk about here. And she just happens to be a favorite of our good friend Brian. So, Brian, go.
It's a case of, I think, getting infatuated with certain people over others and not developing that depth that I talk about, that I crave in really any division. I mean, you don't just want to see the same three men wrestling for the championship over again, or the same three tag teams, same two women. It seemed like they never viewed Dakota Kai as anything more than a supporting player in any storyline. I felt like they were more smitten with Tegan Knox versus Dakota Kai, but this was like 4 or 5 years ago when those two were going at it.
Right.
They were obviously a lot more smitten with Raquel Gonzalez in the angle there, and it never seemed like Dakota Kai was anything more than the fake friend who's eventually going to turn on you for like a month, and then she'll go off to something else. I think Dakota Kai is very underrated in the ring. I think she is very underrated psychologically. She's great at telling a story. She's sneaky good at a promo, too. She doesn't speak for very long, but when she does speak, it carries weight because you don't hear her speaking that often. When we got word of these releases today, in the show chat, I said she should show up in AEW tomorrow and kick Britt Baker's ass.
I was waiting for you to do that. Can I jump in right there?
Or kick somebody's ass. I mean, because she's, in my opinion, she is a dynamo that needs to be unleashed on somebody. Somebody that's entitled, somebody that's, too big for their own britches, that kind of thing. Out comes Dakota.
The point I was trying to make wasn't the fact of, kicking Britt's ass or kicking anybody in particular's ass. This is my problem. Okay, let's, so-and-so got released. Let's send them to AEW. Right, because that has worked for Ruby Soho, Toni Storm, Keith Lee. Do I need to keep going?
No, you don't. Okay, send her to Impact and she can kick
Deonna Purrazzo's ass.
Yes.
Hey, and guess what? Guess who just showed back up on Impact? Taya Valkyrie. I'll take that match. I am getting really, really fed up with the minute someone gets released, let's send them to AEW. We don't need to be sending anybody unless it is a massive move. We don't need to be sending any more under to mid-card people to AEW. They have more than enough as it is.
Fair.
I mean, what are they doing with Keith Lee? Nothing. What are they doing with Ruby Soho? Putting her in a tag team match with Toni Storm against Britt Baker and Jamie Hayter. I wonder who's going over on that one. By the way, it's not the baby faces. Sorry. Let's see. Who else has just jumped and everybody's so excited about? Samoa Joe. They're doing great with Samoa Joe. ... For now. Give it 2 months and let's see what happens. Oh wait, Joe has the Ring of Honor TV title. They're at least gonna continue to do something with him. Joe might be the exception to the rule because Joe is a bigger name than anybody else that I've mentioned, including Keith Lee, who I am a massive fan of. Joe's the only one with legit world championship credibility. And yes, I do consider the TNA and Ring of Honor world championships to be credible. Okay, yeah, Toni Storm was a great deal in Stardom. Cool. That was Japan. In a promotion that we did not learn about until New Japan became a massive deal. Ruby Soho. She was aight in WWE. She was really good in the independents. She's aight in AEW. She has a really cool theme song. The point that I'm trying to make is let's get off the idea that AEW is the promised land. It's not. It is the ultimate display of the haves and the have-nots. Because the have-nots in AEW all get placed in the island of misfit toys. While you have people that have proven that they can go being elevated as they should. I give you Exhibit A, Wheeler, Utah. Don't get me wrong. I like the Best Friends. I like Taylor. I like Chuck Taylor. I like Trent. I love Orange Cassidy. I like Chris Statlander. Wheeler Yuta can wrestle circles around every damn one of them.
Yes, he can.
There's a reason that the guy with the least amount of experience out of the Best Friends is now rolling with Danielson, Moxley, and Regal. Haves and have-nots. AEW should truly be the land of the 1%. Because the 1% in AEW thrives. Everybody else,
Yeah, fair to middling.
You can't tell me that when you see a tag team match featuring Jurassic Express that you're really excited to see that. Granted, yeah, they're the tag team champions, but you can't tell me, oh wow, I'm really looking forward to seeing Luchasaurus. You know what I'm looking forward to seeing? I'm looking forward to seeing Luchasaurus and Jungle Boy, who actually will be good once he starts doing a singles run. I'm looking forward to seeing Jurassic Express lose the titles to FTR because newsflash, boys and girls, it's about to happen. You want to talk about haves and have-nots? How about you give me a singles match featuring the two guys in arguably the greatest tag team on the bleeping planet right now, and you get a Michelin star restaurant quality match out of two guys that are tag team guys. One of them, by the way, hasn't had a singles match in over 5 freaking years. And they did that on Wednesday. Haves and have-nots. I'm done with talking about let's have so-and-so who just got released go to AEW. Wrong answer. Unless the person getting released has more than a serviceable resume, don't call us. We'll call you. Hey, can we give you the number to Scott D'Amore? He's got a television show. Oh, but Patrick, they've got Ring of Honor coming up. Okay, yeah, and guess what? They've got enough people on their roster right now to fill both shows.
I'm interested to see which one of these names is going to be brave enough to make a move like that, to go to New Japan, for example, to go to Impact, to go to AAA. Somebody needs to branch out away from just the reflex of, okay, I'm going to show up in AEW.
Dexter Lumis would end up in Impact. He's already been there. He's familiar with the territory. I think going back to Samuel Shaw, I think he would find a place there. Dakota Kai in Impact, shit yeah. I would love to see that, because I gotta be honest, there are better women's wrestlers in Impact than there are in AEW, with the exception of a couple. Give me Deonna Purrazzo, who's about to show up on AEW for the first time ever. I think next week. Give me that. Give me Dakota Kai, Taya Valkyrie. Oh crap. But Dakota Kai, as talented as she is, as fun to watch as she is, there's a reason she got released. And as good as she is in the ring, she's not that magnetic. Truth be told, neither was Raquel Gonzalez. Raquel Gonzalez was just a big, strong chick. She's about as magnetic as my left foot.
I never cared for her that much. I disagree with you about Dakota Kai not being a magnetic personality. I think she was plenty intriguing enough to capture my attention.
I disagree, because I think a lot of people with Dakota Kai, I think they look at her in-ring body of work and they want to give her grace because of that. Dakota Kai is a New Zealand female version of Johnny Gargano. She's lovable. She's great in the ring. And she's an underdog. Johnny's the same way, except Johnny makes you feel more than Dakota did. Dakota Kai has made me feel one time in her entire NXT career, and that's when she crawfished and double crossed Tegan Knox in War Games. That was it. It's the only time I really went, oh, you bitch. Every other time was, okay, Dakota Kai's in the ring. This will be a really good match. Dakota Kai, as a heel, Never made me want to pay my hard-earned money to see her get her ass kicked. Or as a face, she never made me want to pay my hard-earned money to see her kick somebody's ass. She did make me want to pay money to see what she could do in the ring because she's good. And that, I'm sorry to say, don't pay the bills. That doesn't get you any higher up in the company just because you're good in the ring. The only way that works is if you're really good in the ring. And then the fact that you can't cut a promo to save your life gets ignored. Bret Hart. So on this one, I will vehemently disagree with the narrative that's going around, and I'll obviously also how you feel on that one, Brian, because again, cool, let's stick another person in the mid card of AEW where there's already 700 people.
Can I say something real quick?
Sure.
As we're talking about mid cards and everything else, we have, and we're talking about you're not too thrilled with Raquel Gonzalez or whatever her name is right now, that just got brought up from NXT. We're sitting here with the TNT champion for the women.
Jade Cargill.
Really?
You said the TNT champion for the women.
Right, Jade Cargill.
Oh.
And she's greener. She's greener than my grass right now. If she's got the title, well, there's so many other people that have the opportunity that she can't hold a candle to, but she has the title, and we're sitting here watching her job out to people we've never even heard of. Come on, there's got to be somebody else we can give the title to.
Has the title for one 4-letter word. HYPE. Hype.
And I'll give them credit. They're trying to build a new star.
They are.
It isn't just putting the title on someone for the sake of putting the title on. They're trying to build a star.
Yes. And in my opinion, the attempt to try and build a star.
Exactly.
Give me. The attempt to try and build a star in Jade Cargill, I liked it better the first time, a long time ago, when WWE tried it when his name was Test. That's who it reminds me of. We're going to stick Jade Cargill in a match with people that can make her look halfway decent because she'll just throw them around because she's bigger and she's stronger. The best she's ever looked in an entire match was against Marina Shafir. And that's because Marina Shafir can actually bump for people. She looked god awful in that match that she had in the TBS Championship tournament of Thunder Rosa. And it's not because Thunder Rosa couldn't. Jade Cargill so bad Thunder Rosa couldn't carry her to a match.
Thunder Rosa is the only one that has
right.
Major credibility when it comes to that.
Right, but the reason she looked so good against Marina Shafir is Marina Shafir's fairly small and can just get manhandled around the ring, and she knows how to take a fall because long before she was ever training to be a wrestler, she trained with Ronda Rousey and Shayna Baszler in a cage. So, yeah. But yeah, Jade Cargill is Test. She's Test with longer, different color hair and abs. She's got abs. That's for damn sure.
We're not arguing that.
She's built like a freaking Greek, but she's about as great of a wrestler as this cat right here. Sorry, Jenny.
That's my only point that I want to make right now at this point. But please continue. Sorry.
do we have anything else on this? I mean, because
No,
look,
it's unfortunate more than anything else because if you're signed to a company, you want to see the company use you in a way that accentuates you and things like that. And when these it's become an annual tradition around this time of year we see releases happen.
A tradition like no other.
Yeah, and it's unfortunate. And I do need to get out of the habit of knee-jerk, oh, they're going to show up in AEW, because there's other places that you can go to, ply your trade, and it might wind up being a better decision for you if you go to those places.
And by you saying, I need to get in the habit, by you saying, I need to, what he's really trying to say is everybody needs to get out of that habit.
You people.
You people.
Oh, so we're using you people now?
Yes, we're
You
using.
people. What do you mean?
What do you mean,
people?
you people?
What do
you mean?
You people.
It has been a long time since we've been able to quote Tropic Thunder on this show.
Oh my God.
I know exactly who I am. I'm the dude playing the dude disguised as another dude. Anyway,
Stuff. I'm gonna have to cue that up.
God.
Great movie. Such a great movie. Let's go ahead and talk and get to what we're really here for, and that is the GOAT discussion. The GOAT of all goats. The the OG, if you will. The UG, the Uber GOAT. GOAT Prime is what we're looking at tonight, boys and girls. And we're evaluating all of these people that are under our own consideration with the same 6 pieces of criteria that we've always done with every GOAT discussion that we've had. And those are as follows. Your career longevity. Obviously, a longer career means more time to make a name for yourself and a legacy for yourself. Storyline relevance. I think that goes without saying. Great stories make great fights. Great fights means greater fan reaction, means more goatness. Your mic skills. Can you talk them into the seats? Can you talk them into buying the pay-per-view? Can you make them feel enough to make them want to do what, Brian?
Pay their hard-earned money to see them get their butts kicked or to hand out a butt kicking.
Thank you very much. Championships. Because in this conversation, that one has a ton of weight. Your overall health, because as Brian would always say,
your best ability is your availability.
Thank you again. And last but not least, the intangibles, those unseen factors that make you who you are. As a friend of mine from college once said, it's like, what really are the intangibles? They had good parents? What? Shout out to Kevin Jeffers on that one. Thanks, bud. I have a list of names I'm considering. And I have it down, not the top 10, but I definitely have my 1, 2, 3, 4. I have my top 6 done and in order. I want to give you some names that I did consider, but are not in this top 6 that I just didn't put them in order because, quite honestly, I ran out of time. People that are on my list that aren't being officially recognized are Dusty Rhodes, Hiroshi Tanahashi, Andre the Giant, Bruno Sammartino, and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Oh, no. Sorry, Austin is on my list. Hulk Hogan. Austin is on my list. Sorry about that. So
I will give you a little bit of prologue, if I may.
go for it.
Since we're kind of laying out, if you had come to me 5 years ago and you had said, this is the topic for the show tonight. First of all, I would have said, what show were you talking about? Because 5 years ago, we didn't have this show. And second of all, this list would look nothing like the list that, I'm going to give you tonight. It breaks my heart to say that nowhere to be found in this top 10 list are Bayley, Samoa Joe, Finn Balor, and he's not on it either.
Can I be honest?
So, because we're talking about, and when you get my list, you're going to be like, oh, okay, I see where you're going with this now. I've broadened my horizon, shall we say. I know there's a lot more fish in the sea than just the people whose matches I watch over and over again. So that's what's informing my list. So sorry to burst anybody's bubbles out there who had money on Bayley being number 3 on my list. She ain't on the list. Love her. Can't wait for her to come back. But she's not on the list.
Stunned. I'm stunned.
I actually take it back. I had 7. I'm looking at them, and I'm like, no, there's actually 7. So
okay.
Let me ask you guys a question. Isaac, before I start asking questions, do you have any prologue remarks about your list?
Okay, my list is not just, it is a symphony of a lot of people and from different eras. Normally anyone that really knows me is going to say, you know what, this is what it's going to be. And I thought about it, and like, I got to throw in a couple names that someone's going to be like, oh, wow, you didn't go there. And yes, I went there. And mine was just a little different. Mine is in no particular order, except I did put my number 1 as number 1, but we're gonna argue about this. Someone's gonna, get punched in the eye and say, no, that's not right.
Oh, I fully anticipate.
Oh,
I'm gonna get cussed out tonight.
Oh yeah.
I might too. I don't know. I mean,
I'm gonna get cussed.
Especially based on some of the names that don't make an appearance on this list.
I have a list.
I'll just say I forewent. I think that's the right word. A lot of your typical, because I'm trying to be a little bit more out there and a little bit more broad in terms of my reach.
I'll tell you why mine is going to get me cussed out. Most people are going to consider what I've done on this list to be wrestling blasphemy.
Ooh,
okay.
You know what?
Isaac, sharpen your pitchforks.
Yeah, you know what? Let's just get it out of the way because it's at the bottom of my list. It's number 7. Ric Flair. I got 6 names ahead of him, and you're going to hate some of them. But I have reasons behind it.
Okay, go ahead. Number 7 is Ric Flair. Holy crap. At 7.
At 7.
The nature. Whoop. Yeah, okay.
Man is beyond talented in the ring. The man was beyond talented in the mic. The man transcended the business in terms of being able to make the World Heavyweight Championship mean something. But I look at the other 6 people in terms of the impact that they've had on the business, and each one of them has something to me that makes them more of an impact than Ric Flair. because I'm looking at the overall body of work, not just greatest of all time in the ring. If we're talking about greatest of all time in the ring, Flair is either 1, 2, or 3, depending on who you really like. By the way, 1, 2, and 3 in that, my 1 and 2 on my list would be the other 2 that I would consider in terms of greatest in the ring ever. And my number 1's going to shock the shit out of you. So, who wants to throw out some more high heat? Because I just put Flair at 7.
All right, he didn't crack my top 10.
Okay.
And I'm fully prepared for whatever vitriol you guys want to throw at me. I actually have visual aids. I cracked out the old index cards today at school.
Before you do that, I want to say one thing. Flair almost. I had a very hard time not putting Tanahashi ahead of him because of the impact that Hiroshi Tanahashi had in New Japan, pretty much saving the damn promotion.
True.
So, yeah. Anyway, go for it, Brian. Your visual aids.
I might get some heat for this one, and where because I actually have them ranked from 10 to 1.
Okay, cool.
Because you would expect nothing less from this guy.
Well, here's the thing. So here's an idea. I'm kind of pulling this off on the fly. Since I've started at 7 and I'm working my way up, Isaac only has number 1 as far as like a definitive. How about this? Isaac, if he drops a name that's on your list but not 1, chime in your thoughts, high, low, blah, 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 blah. I'll do the same. You and Brian, you catch up to me at 7.
Okay. Starting off at number 10. Undertaker. I couldn't leave him off the list. There's tons of people that can wrestle circles around the man, but you cannot deny his impact. You cannot deny the longevity. You cannot deny the storyline arcs and all of that kind of stuff. He's the conscience.
1, the greatest character in the history of wrestling. 2, the greatest big man in the history of wrestling. No questions about those. He's on my list.
He's on my list. I wouldn't put him at 10, but he's on the list. He's definitely on the list.
All right, Isaac, let me ask you some clarifying questions, since the list is a lot more ambiguous than ours. Clearly, I'm taking a wild guess. He's not number 1.
He is not number 1.
Top 5 or bottom 5?
I will put him. I put him bottom 5.
Bottom 5, okay. I'm not asking you to I'm not asking you to try and make your list up on the fly. I'm going to ask ambiguous questions to kind of give people more of an idea of what's going on in your head. But Taker's on my list. You'll hear him later. Brian's number 9.
Number 9.
Number 9.
Kurt Angle.
Not on my list.
On my list.
The biggest reason I included him was because of how I've never seen somebody else adapt from the amateur style to the sports entertainment style quite as well as Kurt Angle did. And I'm even including Lesnar in that, because Kurt Angle got the comedy like almost immediately. He got the sports entertainment aspect of it almost right off the jump. You do not boo an Olympic gold medalist. So for me, Angle had to be included on here.
I'm actually I just realized something. I'm actually making an edit to my list. I'm not going to jump in and say Kurt Angle's not on my list. I'm not going to jump in and add him. I also, full disclosure, completely forgot Angle. And I'm kind of mad that I did. but I remembered somebody else that's not on my list, so I'm making an amendment real quick.
I'm sure there's some people that I forgot.
Oh yeah, and when we're doing this on the fly on a couple of days' notice, it's really hard to get this right. So yeah, we're gonna mess some things up. But I guarantee you, on this show, we're gonna have some definitive hills that we're willing to die on, like for the fact that Ric Flair's my number 7. I'm willing to die on that hill at me at Rant Mode On, baby. So we've got Angle at 9. Again, I forgot. If I wouldn't have forgot, he'd be on my list. I just screwed that one up. He would totally be on my list. Isaac.
Thoughts about Angle?
Thoughts about Angle. He is definitely on the list. He is in the bottom half of the list, but he's on the list because he's got so many intangibles.
Exactly.
And we don't need to go to the list of him because we all know what he can do. He can go, he can speak. He's an Olympic gold medalist. He destroyed Shane McMahon. That ass whooping right there is enough to put him on this list.
Still one of my favorite matches of all time.
That's just a beat down I love to see. Thank you, God. That's all I'm saying. But Kurt Angle's on the list. Boom. No, go.
Angle is one of those guys, and honestly and truly, if I had to really think about it, I'd probably put him in the top 5 because he's complete. He got all of the boxes. Entertaining, great in the ring, mic skills, credible, made you want to pay your money to see him either get his ass kicked or whoop somebody's ass. Number 8, Brian.
Here's where I might start getting.
Get ready, ladies and gentlemen. It's about to go.
Well, this is one of those things where, I do this list a year ago. Hell, I even do this list, 10 minutes after I wrote the list. It might turn out different.
Right.
At 8?
Lord forgive me, but I mean...
No.
When you see the 7 people I have ahead of him, I think you'll understand.
No, I don't understand. I don't understand. No. Shawn Michaels.
The thing that I'm dinging him on is the injuries.
Yeah.
Because he did step away for 4 years, and I can't discount the fact that he was difficult to work with early on. Show me a wrestler that isn't difficult to work with, but
I mean, let's look at this for the reason being Shawn Michaels should be top 5. End of story. I'm not gonna debate that with you on where you placed him.
And that's fair.
I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna say, look, for the longevity of what he did, for the ladder match, the ladder match 2 with Razor, for who he has gone up against forever. Just longevity. How long he held that title? Yeah, of course, we know he dropped the Stone Cold because he was hurt for 8 of the 9 months of that whole entire year. We can go through all that, blah 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 blah. But look, we can sit here and go back and forth. But Undertaker, Shawn Michaels, WrestleMania 25, that was a wrestling clinic. The next year, wrestling clinic. Patrick, go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're totally good. I was just putting my hand up like, okay, I want to be next.
Tag, you're it.
B, I can't really. I'm surprised you have him at 8, but I ain't that mad at it.
Did you not include him in your top 7? Oh, he's at 5 for you.
He's at 5.
Okay.
5. He's 5. So you know who 7 is, and you know who 5 is.
Isaac, where does he rank for you?
He's top 5. I'm gonna say
Up against the wall. Where do you put him in top 5?
I'm gonna put him at 4.
Okay.
Can't be mad at that.
I'm gonna say 4.
Can't be
And
mad.
I'll go back to what I said at the beginning. The worldview is completely changed. So the 7 names that I have ahead of Shawn, Kurt Angle, and Undertaker, I feel like
Okay.
this is a legitimate list.
Time to get caught up with me. Who's number 7?
No.
I have a massive problem with that.
Hell no.
Massive problem with that.
Well, I'm sorry. I'm in the immortal words of Medea. Oh, hell no.
In the immortal words of me, not just no, but hell no. In a word, no. In 2 words, hell no. I'm not going to say much more. I'll save it for later. Have a massive, massive problem with you putting Orton at 7.
I have a massive problem with him even being on the list.
I have a massive problem with you saying that. I haven't even.
I don't care what you think. I have a massive problem with him being on the list. No.
Oh.
Oh, hell no.
Ooh. All right, boys and girls, spoiler here. All 3 of us have vastly different opinions of Randy Orton. Foreshadowing alert.
Yeah, I mean, we said it could get edgy, and here we are. Yeah,
It's about to go down.
In hindsight, like, no, you know what? I'm going to own it. In hindsight, if I was doing it over again, I might put Shawn ahead of Orton. That would be one thing I could change for certain.
And
Wow. That's a stretch.
I have a problem with that.
I don't
what?
That.
I have an equally massive problem with that.
I look at Orton, and I look at dependability. I look at storylines he's been involved in. I look at Mike's skills. You know, we can just go down the list. Now, Mike's skills have come along with him. It hasn't always been the case. I think it was right around the IED storyline headed into with Triple H, and and geez, I just realized, Triple H is somebody who doesn't appear in my top 10 either.
He's on mine.
So that's the point where I thought, okay, now all of a sudden he's a very good talker.
Actually, I'm looking at a different list. He was on an older list of mine. Triple H is not on mine.
So, and I knew when I made this list I was going to catch flack somewhere.
Yeah, well, you're catching flack from me on that one. We'll get to that one later.
Okay.
So Isaac,
does Orton appear on either of your lists?
Orton is on mine.
Nope.
Okay. Patrick, where on yours is he? Or do you want to save that for later? Okay.
Save that one. So let's get caught up to me. And number 6, The Undertaker. So now you know 7, 6, and 5. I have The Undertaker over Flair for the simple fact of character development. I look at Flair's entire body of work, and there is a period of time that Flair, in my opinion, is unwatchable. And it's not toward the end of his career with Evolution. It's the mid to late 90s. It's the NWO era of WCW. Flair is god awful in that. And at no point in anybody else on my list do they have a long period where they are absolutely unwatchable. And Ric Flair does. So, Flair, Taker, Shawn. Isaac.
With that era which you were discussing, during that period of time, Ric Flair was unwatchable. that was also that he was not getting the push that he deserved to get pushed because of a certain person.
Well, okay, I don't give two shits about the backstage politics, Isaac. I look at the fact that anytime he would come out on camera with the entire Horsemen, his promos made less sense than hearing Joe Namath drunk on a broadcast booth during an Alabama game. I would rather listen to a hillbilly talk about something that happened in 1930 than listen to Flair cut a promo in the mid-90s, because guess what? The hillbilly with 6 teeth probably would make more sense. The Ultimate Warrior, for God's sakes, made more sense in his entire life than Ric Flair made sense in the mid to late 90s during the NWO's run. Unfreaking watchable. And then, by the way, then we also need to talk about Flair's run in TNA. Flair has, for all of Flair's greatness, Flair has some periods in his career where it's just like, oh, for fart's sake, really? We gotta watch this? Moving on. Dude, look, again, Ric Flair in a 20x20 ring is freaking Da Vinci. Body of work, Adam Sandler at his best. No, you know what? No, I take that back. Full body of work. He's not a De Niro or a Pacino. He's McConaughey. He's an Oscar winner. But like Matthew McConaughey would say, he's just all right. See what I did there?
Yeah.
So Flair 6. So Brian, 6 and 5. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Not on my list.
Okay.
One of my favorite, personally, as far as my favorite wrestlers are concerned, he's in my top 3 as far as my favorites. But I can't put him in the ring, in the conversation with the next 5 guys. I can't put him in the ring. I can't put him in the conversation with Tanahashi, Hogan, Andre, or Bruno, the guys that didn't make the cut. I love Edge, but definitely deserving of Hall of Fame, but not this high up on the list. He's not Mount Olympus. He's a lower Greek god.
Can I tag in?
Sure.
Not on my list. He didn't make it. I'm sorry. I'm thinking here, and as you're talking about Patrick, you're thinking on the fly. I'm sitting here totally forgetting. Why did I forget this person? And they automatically go on the list, and I'm like, what the hell was I thinking? Edge is not that guy. Edge is not the guy I was thinking of, and I just thought about it. I need to write him down really quick because he's in the top 5, and I didn't even think about it. So I gotta move some things around.
Okay, get yourself a pen. Write down Rhino. That's fine.
All right, so you're saying Edge?
How did you say that?
Well,
I wanted to make sure you were paying attention.
So are you saying you forgot to put Edge on your list, or he's just not on your list?
No, Edge is not on my list.
Okay.
But apparently I reminded him of someone.
Look, do not ever sit here and doubt Spike Dudley. Don't do it. No, we're not doing that tonight.
Hey, look, if we're talking toughest bastards to ever wrestle, Spike Dudley's on the list. You ever want proof of that? Him versus Mike Awesome at Guilty as Charged 2000 in Birmingham. I was there. It was painful. watch.
You made me watch that match for a homework assignment.
I most certainly did, and you were uncomfortable watching it.
And you
Vastly
should have been.
uncomfortable.
What'd you say, Isaac?
And you should have been.
Yeah, it was.
Very comfortable.
All right, number five, B. Not on my list.
Had to put him on there. Viva la Raza. I mean, this was more sentimental. I will admit, this is a sentimental pick because I look at the demons he had to overcome. And with the amount of people that consider him an influence now, all over the place, I couldn't help but include him somewhere in here. Again, would it be a little bit different when I reorder some of this now that I'm listening to your reactions to it? Probably. But this seemed, right.
I can completely understand someone putting Eddie on the list. And I love Eddie. But much like Eddie, to me, falls in that same category as Edge. I loved him, but I can think of reasons for other guys to go on the list instead of Eddie Guerrero. Isaac, your thoughts on it? Your thoughts on Latino Heat?
Before I give my thoughts, I loved Eddie Guerrero just like everyone else did. Let me just put that out there. Is he in the top 10? No, but he was on my honorable mentions.
Oh yeah.
I don't want to sit here and go into everything else, but yes, I did think about him, and I thought he's not there yet. But I loved him. God bless him.
Yeah.
God bless his family. Even excuse me. Even her.
Dude, Vicky Guerrero Vicky Guerrero turned out to be absolutely amazing. Like, mwah. So let's recap real quick. B, go through your go through 10 through 5 real quick.
So 10 for me is Undertaker, 9 is Kurt Angle, 8 Shawn Michaels, 7 Randy Orton, 6 Edge, 5 Eddie Guerrero.
And for me,
and so far for the two of you, I only have your 7, 6, and 5, Patrick, as Ric Flair, Undertaker, and Shawn Michaels. And Isaac, you've got Kurt Angle and Undertaker down at like 8 and 9, and you said you had Shawn Michaels at number 4.
Yeah.
And keep in mind, boys and girls, we're as we're going along, we're piecing Isaac's list together because he only had a defender number 1, which is fine. So we're just we're ballparking it and having fun and having a blast while we're doing it. Here's where my list gets fun. My top 4. Let me look real quick. 1, 2. All 4 of my top 4. Number 1, they're all alive. And number 2, they're all active.
Okay. We might have a few overlaps here then. This might be interesting.
Number 4.
Okay. Hit
Number
it.
4, Rey Mysterio.
No.
1.
Die on this hill. Go.
Yes, people have won more championships than Rey Mysterio. Who the hell has had a bigger impact on high flying in this business than Rey Mysterio Jr.? How many people can you look at in the ring right now? A lot of these younger guys who cite Rey Mysterio as an inspiration, as someone that they grew up watching and loving. Mysterio is one of the most influential wrestlers of like the young generation of people of wrestlers that we have now. And easily the greatest luchador of all time. There's no question about that. But what he's been able to do, how he's been able to, let's be honest, how he's been able to invoke emotion while wearing a mask, simply because he has had a long career of being exciting to watch Rey Mysterio for a very long period of time. When he came on the TV, you set your ass down and you watched because you had no idea what he was about to do. Rey Mysterio was appointment TV.
That's fair.
Rey Mysterio, for his influence, number 4. And by the way, my 1 through 4, they are locked. I am not budging, and they are collectively a hill.
I would expect nothing less.
So, how do you guys feel about Rey Mysterio at my number 4?
I'm upset that I forgot about him.
Okay, I'm not asking you to completely revamp your list, but snap decision, top or bottom 5?
For me, bottom 5, and I'd probably sub out Orton for Mysterio.
I have a
if I were gonna do this over again.
I have a massive problem with that. I think I'm showing my hand, but I have a massive problem with that.
May I?
Go ahead.
I see your points when it comes to Rey. If I was to put him on my list, he would be on the bottom 5, but he's not on my list.
Did you forget him, or did you forget him, or was it just no?
Both.
Okay.
One, I forgot. No, I'm gonna be honest.
No.
One, I forgot him. Totally forgot him. 2, I don't think with the names that we're seeing here and throwing out, ultimate GOAT. No. For his division, oh hell yeah, I'll give him that. But no, can't.
I hope you guys are watching this and watching it the same way I'm watching this, because I'm really seeing where our wrestling influences lie. You're getting 3 completely different, in terms of being a wrestling fan, 3 different ways of life in this. And I find this damn fascinating. This is beautiful. B is chomping at the bit to drop number 4. Let's have it. Here we go, boys and girls.
I told you at the beginning, this is not the same list you would have gotten 5 years ago. This guy, for the sheer fact of what he did in AEW in 2021 before he left to tend to his injuries alone. Forget about the New Japan stuff for a minute. Forget about the AAA stuff for a minute. This guy is always on. He doesn't half-ass anything, and he was one of the first names I wrote down when I started putting these in order. He's not number 1, but he was in consideration for number 1 because of his body of work, because of his skills on the microphone, because of the fact that he's fluent in multiple languages, because of the fact that he is a trendsetter. He's got reach and impact beyond the wrestling ring. You want to talk about that? It's Kenny Omega's got it in spades. So for me, that's why he's in at number 4.
I disagree with a lot of things that you said. I think he's god awful on the mic. I find him to be very plotting on the mic. And as far as his reach is concerned, I find it to be non-existent. Here's where I start going to hell. Not on my list.
Let me jump in real quick.
Whoa. Okay.
And I want to point this out. I didn't forget him. I thought about him. I'm like, because I can look at Tanahashi and realize the impact that he had. I can look at Hogan. I can look at Andre. I can look at San Martino. I can look at Edge, which I considered. Okay, I'd put Omega over Edge easily. Other guys, I don't know. But Omega, not on my list.
Can I jump in?
Sure.
I'm gonna be honest, and we're being honest here, people. I totally forgot about Kenny Omega, but I would if I'm being honest. I'm being honest, and there's another name that I completely forgot about that I wrote down just a second ago, and I'm like,
oh, hey, Brian, let me just go ahead and blow your mind right now. Omega is not on my list, and neither is Okada.
Okay.
This is where the fight starts, ladies and gentlemen.
And don't get me wrong, I love Kazuchika Okada. But in terms of an...
You got 3 spots at the bottom. You want to slot him in one of those?
Ooh.
You got 8, 9, and 10 available.
Okada is somebody I would probably throw in the list.
Throw him in the list.
Okay, Okada at 8. Okada at 8. Okada at 8. Angle at Angle at 8. Okada at 9. And I don't know about 10 yet. Anyway, so my turn for number 3.
Actually, Isaac, why don't you do us a favor and give us one of your lower tier people?
Okay. Now,
I don't want you to get left behind on this.
Right, yeah.
We're getting into rarefied air, and I'm like, well, hold on a second.
Okay, so my lower tier people. I gotta look at this. One of my lower tier people has got to be Harley Race.
Thought about him. But, I mean, if we're looking at like old school wrestlers, I would easily put Flair and Dusty ahead of Harley.
I got Dusty on my list, but here's the reason why. And we're sitting here talking about the ultimate GO.A.Ts. When we use that, we need to bring in everybody. And I'm not just talking Harley Race. I'm talking Bruno Sammartino in the aspect of Bruno sold out the Garden 72 nights.
Yeah.
Garden back in the day. That means something. It wouldn't equivalent to this now, but I mean, we have to sit here, and we do have to sit here and acknowledge that dude had something going on with the era that he was in, with the I want to say the it factor that The Rock has right now to sell out the Garden, not just one time, but a plethora of times.
That is an amazing comparison in terms of the it factor and just that magnetic gravity, comparing Bruno to The Rock, and that makes a ton of sense.
I see it. I mean, Bruno got mobbed everywhere he went. You know, he was adored by the Italian American community in New York City.
Can we also point out one thing? Y'all Google pictures of Bruno in his heyday. That's
God,
some bitch.
Oh, somebody Google him now. You're gonna say, "Oh my God!"
All you young Turks out there who don't know who we're talking about.
Oh, was a handsome sumbitch.
And a massive sumbitch.
So in other words, The Rock.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that's where I'm going with this. That's where I'm going.
So, hey, give us some more. Give us some more of you guys that would be middle to bottom tier.
For me,
yeah.
Period. I would think Dusty Rhodes. That's me. And the reason I say that is because, as much as we love Ric Flair, and Ric Flair is on my list, at the same time, you have to have someone that goes up against him. And, you have Ric Flair, who was styling and profiling, and you got the son of a plumber. And you got to look at this back in the day. for Dusty Rhodes, who was 275, 280 at that time, and didn't look like he could last for 5 minutes in the ring and went for an hour. A lot. That dude got some.
My belly might be a little bit too big. My honey might be a little bit too big. But, brother, they know I'm bad, and they know I'm bad. Hard times, baby.
Ugh! That's all I'm saying right there. Boom. You know what it is.
But, yeah, Dusty definitely deserves consideration for this list, in my opinion, for one reason and one reason only. Promos are not important in this business without Dusty freaking Rhodes.
Yes.
Dusty Rhodes was the first wrestler to really be able to talk a crowd into the building. Really and truly, you can equate him to Muhammad Ali in that aspect. Ali would talk people into the building. Dusty could talk people into the building too. So Dusty definitively deserves some consideration to this. Again, if we're looking at like overall body of work beyond the ring, Dusty's way high on that list because of all of the creative gifts that he gave to the wrestling business. I mean, my God, if there's ever Dusty, if we're doing a top 10 list of the greatest influences in pro wrestling, Dusty's worst case scenario, Dusty's 2.
That should be something we should be talking about later.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to cut you off, but that's the list we need to have.
That is a great idea for a show, and we'll definitely do that very soon, because when we're talking about most influential people in wrestling, that opens up a whole hell of a lot of people that aren't just ring performers. So, B, is it time to get into the bronze, silver, and gold medals?
I need one more name from Isaac, because I've actually got 4 through 9 for both of you, but I don't have a number 5 for Isaac. So one more name from your lower tier, please.
Okay, one of my lower tiers. And I'm going to go... I said him. One of my lower tiers, we already mentioned The Undertaker, so I'm going to put him in my lower tier.
I've already got him.
Okay, you got him. You got Kurt Angle.
I got Shawn at 4. I've got Dusty at 6. Harley Race at 7. Taker at 8. Angle at 9.
Okay. Then I'm gonna have to go with The Rock. Then The Rock is on my list. I'm sorry to say he's in my lower tier, because there's somebody else. There's somebody else.
Yeah, I didn't put him on my list because, in my opinion, there were too many guys from the Attitude Era that deserved to be on the list higher, and a lot of those guys didn't make the list either. Austin's not on my list.
Austin is on my list.
No offense, I'm not surprised because of how big of an Austin fan you are. You know, that's... And there's nothing wrong. So, B?
All right, folks, take a deep seat.
Wait. I let you go out on a limb first every time.
Okay.
Let me go out on a limb for number 3.
All right, your bronze medalist.
Remember how I said they're all active? My number 3 might be the best wrestler on the planet right freaking now.
You put Braun Breaker at number 3? Those are some pretty big dice you're rolling, sir.
Wow.
Bryan Danielson.
Wow.
All right.
I totally forgot about Bryan. I'm gonna. But I
said.
Would you put him at number 10 for you?
You can put him. No, you're gonna put him at like. Put him at 4. Put him at 4. I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that.
I don't can make this list without Bryan Danielson. Granted, his championship pedigree doesn't touch half the guys on this list. But Bryan Danielson gets on this list because there's few people in their prime that hang with this dude. Not AJ, not Kenny, not Flair, not Cena. My God, please get me in a time machine with Bryan Danielson right now and put him in the ring at WrestleMania 19 with Shawn. WrestleMania 25 with Shawn.
Put him in WrestleMania anything with Kurt Angle.
Yeah. Holy crap.
WrestleMania 3 with Steamboat.
WrestleMania.
Hello.
Triple threat.
I'm just going to put it out there. Macho is one of my honorable mentions. So is Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. But we're sitting talking about championships and all that other stuff. I'm talking about just period. Go. Sorry.
Oh, geez, yeah, triple threat match.
Jesus Christ.
Shut up and take my money.
Twice over.
Amen. But yeah, Danielson. William Regal keeps referring to him on AEW as the perfect wrestler. I don't see an argument. Everything he does is either insanely crisp or it looks like it hurts like a sumbitch. You know, we've had the conversation on this show plenty of times. Would you rather take a kick from Daniel Bryan or a chop from Walter? And sometimes the answer differs depending on how we're feeling that day.
Let me just say this really quick, and I'm just thinking, I'm spitballing this at the same time. Some people are going to get mad when I say this person's name, but Bryan Danielson versus Chris Benoit.
Hell yes. I mean, granted,
take my money. I know how he ended his career was not whatever, but you got to admit, Chris Benoit versus Kurt Angle was masterclass.
Look, Benoit's legacy is forever tarnished because of the way his life ended. And because of that, I don't think you can even consciously put him in any top 10 of the greatest of all time, despite the fact that his resume speaks for itself. Just like you won't put O.J. Simpson on a list of the greatest running backs of all time, despite the fact that his resume speaks for it, because he murdered 2 people and got away with it. You know, so same, OJ, Chris Benoit, same deal. I have a funny feeling that you and I are going to have the same number 2.
Oh, I need Isaac's number 3 first.
Okay.
Cena. Sorry, boys. You can't. As much as you want to sit here and deny him, he's in there.
That's one of those guys you can't really argue against. I can totally see the argument for Cena. But as far as a preference, it's not my bag.
Okay.
I did enjoy earlier this week. I heard on Busted Open, they got into an argument over who legitimately has claim to the record of most WWE Championship victories, Flair or Cena. And
I heard that too.
Argument started to lean toward the fact of, no, it's not Flair's record. It's John Cena's record, because Flair won 2 WWF titles and 14 NWA WCW titles. So if you're talking about most WWE title runs of all time, it's Cena, and then Triple H, and then Orton. Flair has as many WWE title reigns as The Miz. I found that to be a fascinating argument. But again, depending on your preference of wrestling, yeah, Cena can totally make that list. He just didn't make mine. And from the looks of it and Brian's facial expression, doesn't look like he made his either.
Didn't make mine, and I don't know. Like I don't know who I would kick off. Like I told you that I could substitute. I forget who it was that we were saying when the name came up. That I could take Orton off and put somebody on in their place. I can't take one of these 10 names off for Cena.
Let me ask you guys a couple questions. Let's Cena for a second before we get into the twos and the ones. I'm going to throw out names. The question is, would you put Cena over them? Hogan.
No.
No.
Yes. Andre.
Oh, it's tough. I'd put him over Andre. Yeah.
Savage.
No.
Exactly.
No, wouldn't put him over Savage.
I would.
Sting.
Yes. And I love. Don't get me wrong. I love Sting, and he's in my honorable mention, but I got to put him over.
Hey, Sting is in my top 3 of my favorites of all time. Edge, Taker, Cena. I've said that ad nauseum on this show, but I'd take Cena over. I'd take Cena over Sting 10 times out of 10. This is how good John Cena is and is underappreciated. I remember seeing an interview once with Paul Heyman, and someone, I think it might have been Chris Van Vliet, asked him, take someone who is the one person or who are a couple of people currently in WWE that if you had a time machine, you would take and go back to 1997, 1998 ECW, and they'd be an instant star. And he mentioned 3 names. Obviously, Brock Lesnar. He mentioned Dolph Ziggler. And the first one right out of the gate was John Cena. He said, and I more or less said, John Cena could be a star anywhere.
I'll agree with that.
There's no way in hell I can argue that. Didn't make my list. All right, B. I think we have the same number 2. I'm feeling it. Hit it. No, we don't.
No.
Not on my list. I wanted to, but I couldn't.
I wanted to. I thought about him for a second, and then I put him in my honorable mentions, but no.
Definitely an honorable mention for me. Keep in mind, even though Brian has listed my 8, 9, and 10, I don't necessarily have a true 8, 9, and 10. AJ's on that honorable mention list, but I can't put him over. Flair, Taker, Shawn, Rey, Bryan Danielson.
For me, with AJ, he's one of the few examples of a guy who made a name for himself outside of WWE first.
Yeah.
And developed a stellar body of work first before he ever set foot in WWE. And all he's done since he's gotten into WWE, with the exception of last year, is have bangers with everybody. With Edge, with John Cena, with Shane McMahon, with Kevin Owens, with you name it.
Yeah.
With everybody, basically.
Yeah.
Let's just put it like it. Yeah.
That banger of a match with James Ellsworth, boys and girls.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I go back to what I said a minute ago. AJ's on my short list, but when I only got to 7 and ran out of time, I can't look at those 7 and put AJ ahead of any of them. I would, and even when I'm getting to Flair at 7, that one's close. Maybe, Flair, Taker, I can make that argument. But once we start getting into Shawn at 5 and above that, no, I can't. Here's my number 2. Jericho. Brian forgot Jericho. Brian, am I right in that? You forgot Jericho?
I did, and I'm
I forgot
ashamed.
Jericho, but I wouldn't put him on my list. He'd be my honorable mention. Don't get me wrong, I do love Jericho, I do, but no.
I will make one.
Jericho would be a definitive one to take Orton's place, because I would say that Jericho has had a bit more influence than Orton has had a bit more 5-star classics than Orton has, better on the microphone than Orton. So if you gave me a mulligan on one of these, can't believe I forgot Jericho.
I'll give you one argument for Jericho, very high on this list. I was on vacation in Alabama, and RJ and Brian were doing their very first show without me. And Brian came up with the idea of the GOAT discussion. And the first topic was Chris Jericho. I rest my case.
Yeah, that's another reason why he should have been at least somewhere on this list.
Jericho, if you're being real with yourself, Chris Jericho is top 5. If Chris Jericho isn't top 5, we have a problem, because I don't think there's really any denying him. I mean, you can make arguments for and against just about everybody else we put on this list. I'm fairly certain Chris Jericho is one of the few people where you're like, no, he has to be on this list in a very specific place. So that's my number 2. And being the fact that I have said I have a massive problem with certain things, I'm going to go ahead and play my hand. The person that I feel is the greatest of all time is also the person that I feel is the single most complete professional wrestler God ever put on this planet, Randy Orton. I ignored the fact that his mic skills have been, especially in the early part of his career, crappy. Like you mentioned earlier, with the IED angle and beyond, that's when he hit his stride on the mic, when he became a darker, more intense character. And that was enough for me. What I look at in the ring with is no wasted motion. Everything he does with intent. Everything he does is scientific. I can watch an Orton match and it looks like he's not even trying, but he's having great matches with a lot of people. Just please, for the love of God, don't put him in the ring with Sheamus. That's all I'm asking. It's the only person he's ever had consistently shite matches with. He's had great matches with Cena, and a lot of people not Cena's in-ring work. I look at Orton. Say what?
5 moves do.
Yeah, I look at Orton as complete. No holes in his game. Whose phone is ringing?
Probably mine, because it's on silent.
Oh well.
Sorry, it's
not a problem. But yeah, for me, my number 1 is Randy Orton. There's a reason he is, or at least was, the youngest champion in WWE history. He won his first title at 24. I mean, that was saying something. The guy was a natural when he first came on the scene, and he has only gotten more polished as the years have gone on. I could look at Orton now. If you were to take Randy Orton right now at what he's doing right now and his style in the ring right now and rewind 10 years, we're not talking about Cena. We're not talking about Batista. We're not talking about Triple H. We're not talking about Roman or Seth or Bryan Danielson. None of these guys, we're not talking about Roman. I think I might have already mentioned him. Orton is the zenith. If we take Orton right now at 40-something years old and go back 10, 15 years, complete game changer. I don't want to use the word perfection because you can't be perfect in this line of work unless your name is Mr. Perfect. But Orton from the ground up is the stereotype.
Prototype.
Yes, yeah, I'm sorry, thank you. Is the prototype. He is what you want. Number
B,
one.
go, or you want me to go?
Isaac, why don't you go give us your number two?
My number two.
Your number two.
My number two is Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Okay. Can't argue that.
Okay. Now, do you want me to give you my number one, or you want to go B?
Go ahead and give me your number one. Just because I feel like I've been dominating the discussion. So.
Okay, my number one is the one person, and I was watching this the other day. It was the one person that was the greatest good guy of all time and the greatest bad guy of all time. And that person is Hulk Hogan. He literally, you have to see, we can go back and forth, but remember, the red and yellow back in the late 80s, early 90s, it was everywhere. Hulkamania was a movement, which got us to the point we are here now. And then he came back with Hollywood Hogan and the NWO and became the ultimate bad guy. Not many people can sit here and say that his merch from one side to the other was impeccable. And
You're
he
right.
was able to do it on both sides.
That is a hell of an argument, and I can't knock it. I want to rewind to the beginning of this show real fast before Brian gives us his number one. RJ just sent a message to us in the group chat. Fightful Select is reporting that Dakota Kai was said to have seen this release coming, but Fightful also cites that Dakota Kai made it known to WWE that she was not interested in renewing her contract anyway. NXT release stars have a 30-day no-compete clause. So, sounds like we now know why she was released, because she wasn't staying anyway. And I don't think they're willing to let anyone ride their contract out anymore, because they've seen what happened with Adam Cole.
Yeah.
So everything is becoming more clear now. So, Brian, we know who Isaac's number one is, brother. We know who mine is. How about yours?
Well, I told you all that I've been seeking to broaden my horizons.
Oh, boy.
All I will say about this guy is that I've watched 25 of his matches.
What time? Stop. So help me God. If the name on that card is Simon Dean, you're going to die.
Okay, well, get the car keys, because I've watched 25 of this man's matches. There is not a single one of them that I would not watch over and over again and repeat, because this guy, I think, is incapable of having a bad match.
Can't argue it.
And it's when I set out to do this, when you floated the idea earlier in the week about, hey, let's have a top 10 and let's make it definitive, I didn't want to give you the same old standbys. because this is as much an acknowledgement. Oh wait, is as much an acknowledgement for me that wrestling is not just a niche one promotion product anymore.
Right.
It's a global sport, and if what WWE is doing does not interest you, trust me, people, there is plenty other out there for you to consume, and you could do a lot worse than YouTubing Kazuchika Okada and finding just a random free match against Tomohiro Ishii. You'll like that. Or a random match against whomever. And it's going to be worth your time and worth your viewership.
I cannot argue against any of either one of your number ones, because your number ones are your number ones for a very, very valid reason. And I hope you guys can see my argument in Orton as well. We all three of us completely differ in what we value in terms of a all-time great, and I find that fascinating. I mean, look at Isaac. Isaac's number 2 are the 2 most popular baby faces of all time in Austin and Hogan. Hogan also became one of the greatest heels of all time. For Brian, help me out. Who was your number 2?
Well, I got Okada 1, AJ Styles 2, Bryan Danielson 3.
Okay. You're looking at that for Brian, and Brian is valuing in-ring work. I'm doing the same in a different way with Danielson at 3, Jericho at 2, and Randy Orton at number 1. It clearly, for Brian, my interpretation, greatest of all time also antiquates to more of a exciting style, whereas for me, I'm looking at flawless. I'm looking at complete. I'm looking at, to quote William Regal, the perfect wrestler. And that's what I see.
It's been a fascinating exercise because
you're right. I mean, we literally have gone in the last 7 days. We have gone from having a show where we have laughed our butts off to a show, one of the more thought-provoking shows that we've ever had.
Where all three of us were legitimately looking at the other one in askance when we would say, "You put who where?
Right.
You didn't put this guy on the list. What's wrong with you?" And that's really what it's all about, gang. Is we're trying to spark a debate. Quite honestly, if we had come up with a top 10 list and 8 of the 10 guys have been all the same and in all the same spots, we would have been like, well, that sucked. Anybody can do that. But
hey, can I be honest? If we're doing that show, I'm not posting it. I would
quit. Honestly, if we're all on that page and we're not arguing about this, no, we can't do that. We can't.
See, here's something that I've always wanted this show to be, and this is something I've told the guys, and this is something I want to share with you guys. I've done sports radio before, and the sports radio show that I did featured myself and one of my dearest friends in the entire world, Chris Lundy, and a couple of coworkers of ours. And the whole concept of our show was, and we've used this phrase on Wrestling with Egos, bar talk. The concept of our show was guys essentially sitting at the bar, shooting the shit about sports. What's going on with football? What's going on with baseball? What's going on with this and this and this? How do you feel about these comments? Just guys sitting over a couple of beers, shooting the shit about something that we love. And a show like this tonight, this episode of Wrestling with Egos, or episode number 120, by the way, for me, this is my shit. This is something that I love because we're not in agreement. There's not like I completely agree with that, Patrick. Oh, I completely agree with that, Brian. Jesus, just shoot me. Because
Isaac has never once said that to me, by the way. I completely agree with you.
How fun is it if we're all in lockstep? I'll give you a hint.
It doesn't.
I love the fact that we got early into this. Me going, I have a massive problem with that. And you now see why. You have Orton at 8 or 9, and I'm like, nope, I got him at 1. And I'm surprised that I got as tame of a reaction out of that as I did. But
I think it's because I realize there's no perfect answer to this.
No!
Because everybody's bringing in their own value set to the table on this. It's just like what's going on with the NFL draft right now. It's
an imperfect science.
Yes, the talent evaluators are sitting there and there's always that one team that goes against the script, and I didn't see that coming, and that's the whole point of it. You can't predict it.
Let's be honest. Let's pretend for a second that we have 4 people on this show, and the 4th one's RJ. I'd be willing to bet dollars to donuts that his number 1 of all time is Kenny Omega.
Yes. Safe bet.
It's a very safe bet. And I guarantee you that there would be a lot more people from New Japan on his list because that's what he skews more towards.
That's what he's cut his teeth on. He makes no secret about that.
It's a personal preference. I guarantee you there is someone watching the show that is thinking that we have committed wrestling blasphemy by not having Ric Flair or Shawn Michaels as 1 or 1A or 1 and 2. And neither one of them were in the top 3 in any of our lists.
And I am not, by no means am I discounting Ric Flair and his contributions and all of that. I just find it very simple to come up with 10 guys, maybe even 14 or 15 guys that I'd put before Flair. This might be another unpopular opinion. I might put Lesnar ahead of Flair.
Oh, you lost your mind.
No, I can't do it.
Ladies and gentlemen, he's smoking crack one more time.
No, he's not, because
lost your goddamn mind.
Lesnar's a special attraction, and there's a place for that sort of thing. As much as I don't like the guy, and can't stand to see him waste airtime on my television, I get why he's a contracted performer with WWE. He brings in eyeballs to the product, and he has developed, his second incarnation, I think, has been a lot better than his first.
I agree.
So
can I say something with that argument really, really quick? You sit here and talk about he's a special attraction. You remember Ric Flair was on WCW for a long period of time with that World Heavyweight Championship match. Now, he went out, and you didn't see Flair for sometimes 2 to 3 months on live TV. And the reason being because he had to go to every other territory because he was the featured attraction at every place. And we sit here and talk about how special Brock is. That was Ric Flair.
Yeah.
And that was him in a nutshell everywhere.
All right, but we're talking about Brock being a special attraction versus Flair being pretty much the entire face of professional wrestling outside of WWE in the early to mid late 80s. If you were outside of Vince McMahon's bubble, your world champion was Ric Flair. There's a difference in Flair and Lesnar. If we are having a conversation of the greatest pure athletes in the history of professional wrestling, Brock Lesnar is way freaking high on that list.
Maybe it was fallacious of me to say that. I'm sorry. It's
not fallacious of you to say that because that's your opinion, and that's the problem. That's the thing. We're all sitting here saying, you know what? RJ would say, Japan is this. I'm going to sit here, and mine's a little different view because I'm thinking early 70s, early 80s. You know, Patrick's more down south. It could be a lot of different things, but it's just not one thing that we're sitting here saying this is the blueprint. We all have different blueprints.
Here's my view on it, Brian. Your opinion can be whatever your opinion is going to be, as long as it's based in somewhat of a fact, somewhat of a concrete thing, and not just some asinine thing that you pull out of your left nostril because you wanted to.
Well, you go back and review the footage. I was not picking my nose when I said that I might put Lesnar ahead of Flair.
You weren't. I know you weren't. I just didn't want to say pulling it out of somewhere else because I'm trying to be nice.
Yeah.
You're not going out and saying, "Oh, I think the greatest wrestler of all time is Taz." Don't get me wrong.
Great hook. I'm sorry, I couldn't resist it.
Yeah.
What Taz did in ECW was fun as hell to watch. Not even close to the top 50 in my opinion. But there's a difference in having an out there opinion and having a there's a difference in having a hot take that you can make a legitimate argument for and being Skip Bayless.
Copy that.
I went there, and you know what? Tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong, boys and girls. I dare you. You might not agree with my list, but you can't deny that one. There's a difference in having a hot take and being Skip Bayless. One of them is an idiot. The other one actually has a brain and uses it with their opinion involved.
As we get ready to head on up out of here, I will say that there are two things on the WWE Network that if you all have not checked them out yet, you need to. The first one is the miniseries called Evil, which is fantastic. Talking about the heels of WWE and the psychology.
The Hogan and Roman episodes are science.
Yes. And I will also say that on Sunday,
real quick, they get into freaking weeds with Roman.
Yeah. This Sunday evening, the next guest on the Broken Skull Sessions is going to be the American Nightmare, Cody Rhodes, and that's going to be appointment television.
Yeah. I am very interested on hearing that because Steve is going to ask some deep questions. And I know Cody is too professional and too kind to completely blast anyone, nor do I think he has a reason to. But with Cody being on the Broken Skull Sessions, I think it's safe to say that Cody got some splaining to do.
Yeah. And I didn't read the article, but apparently, I don't know what this is going to do to the quality of the product. WWE is apparently in discussions with the Dark Side of the Ring people, because Dark Side of the Ring was not brought back on Vice's programming for a fourth season.
Really?
It's not on their roster right now. But then I saw a story today where apparently WWE and the Dark Side of the Ring people are in talks to work together about some things.
I don't like that.
Huh?
I'm not necessarily a fan of that either, because it's going to be sanitized.
Oh God, yeah.
If Dark Side of the Ring went there with a lot of people that WWE, wants to sit and bury, and the problem with that is you don't. That's just like that's like Elon Musk buying Twitter, and giving people the platform to do what he wants. They're gonna brush some people out. You're gonna say, no, we're not gonna talk about that. The reason Dark Side of the Ring is Dark Side of the Ring is because they go there.
The gloves are off. And my biggest fear, kind of thinking, because I initially thought, ooh, that could be interesting, but no, actually, thinking about it for 30 seconds longer. That could be terrible because let's be honest, if they're going to do a dark side of the ring that's under the WWE umbrella, the only thing it's going to serve is to bury people that have embarrassed the company. Yeah. The very first episode of WWE's Dark Side of the Ring would be on someone like Sonny.
And you would never see the episode of Chris Benoit.
No.
Never see the episode of Owen Hart because we all know what's going to happen there. That's going to get buried. And that the problem right there is we need to see that. We need to see the other side.
Yeah. And we wouldn't see the episode of Pillman either.
Yeah.
But regardless, I honestly think WWE would use that as an opportunity to bury people that Vince was slighted by on a permanent basis, like Sonny. Sonny be the first casualty of war on that one.
Ladies and gentlemen, we wouldn't see the plane ride from hell either.
Oh yeah, because that didn't happen.
Yeah. Hey, as far as they're concerned, it never happened. Hey, we all know the truth.
The plane ride from hell, you might as well just start calling that Bruno.
Yeah. Don't talk about Bruno.
Talk about Bruno. No.
We need that.
Anyway, music's playing, which means the producer's up on higher telling us shut the hell up. Which, let's be honest, it's 11:15 p.m. So yeah, I kind of want to shut the hell up and go to bed. So that being said, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Wrestling with Egos. Again, check us out on the YouTubes. Check us out on Spotify, Anchor Podcast, Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, however you other podcasting platforms. I'm also reading the possibility that Spotify might start doing video podcasts. So we might be coming to a Spotify video near you in a very, very future, and that could be dope. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, click the bell for notifications, leave a comment below on YouTube, 5-star review on your podcasting platform of choice. Isaac is at I the Fourth, Brian is at BCrigo15, and I'm at Rant Mode On. The show is at Wrestling X Egos. We will see you guys next week on episode 121 of Wrestling with Egos. And until then, conversations like this where we all think each other are crazy and no, that person should be higher up on the list, that person shouldn't be on the list, arguments like that. That's why the three of us love pro wrestling. See you guys next week.
Later, y'all.